In the Muscle.3 standard, you'll be responsible for knowing the names of the major skeletal muscles of the human body. In the images I'm about to show you, I put stars next to the muscles you are responsible for knowing, and that does include spelling without a word bank. There are additional muscles shown on some of these images, however, I've tried to limit the scope to make it reasonable for a high school anatomy class. The standard reads, I can identify the major skeletal muscles of the human body, and they're all covered in section 9.7 of your textbook. Again, to review, the muscular system has three types of muscle, and we're going to highlight the skeletal muscles today, still the ones that are attached to your bones, causing voluntary movements. You may notice that some of the names even reflect the bones in which they cover, so if you memorize the names of the skull bones, this will really help you today. Okay, so we're going to start with muscles of the head and face. The frontalis muscle is the muscle that allows you to crinkle your forehead. It sits over the frontal bone and connects primarily to some of your eye muscles and a piece of connective tissue over the majority of your skull. Notice that there's no parietalis. There's not really muscle here. The temporalis sits over the temporal bone of your skull, and this would allow you to wiggle your ears and assists in expression. And the occipitalis sits over the occipital bone towards the back of your head. This muscle surprisingly allows you to wiggle your eyelids or your eyebrows rather, because it's connected to this giant sheet of connective tissue that it and the frontalis kind of work in tandem. The orbicularis oculi surrounds the eyeballs and allows you to blink, to squint, to make expressive eye motions. The zygomaticus, both major and minor, I'm just concerned with the general zygomaticus, sits over your cheekbones and helps you smile, helps you speak, helps you articulate facial expressions. Your orbicularis oris is another round muscle, but instead of going around your eye, like the oculi does, the oris goes around your mouth, again helping you open your mouth to eat and really helping with specific speech patterns. Your primary chewing muscle is your masseter, and it sits connecting from your maxilla and even up into your zygomaticus down to your mandible. And so this is the huge muscle power for chewing, and it's actually very strong in terms of power per pound. Your sternocleidomastoid is your neck muscle. When you turn your head, you can see it pop out a little bit, and it does help you do just that. It assists you in turning your head from left to right, allowing you to look around. Last muscle on this slide of the head and face is the trapezius. Your trap is a big muscle, but this is the superior portion of it that attaches to your skull, and it will run down your back. If we're looking at muscles on the pectoral girdle side, we see the rest of that trapezius. So connecting up to your skull, but going out to your shoulder and your scapula, and even going down a decent portion of your vertebrae, at least through the center of your thoracic vertebrae. It's a large kite-shaped muscle. This is obviously only one side of it, but it is very big and controls a lot of different motions. Your primary shoulder muscle is your deltoid, which allows you to lift your arms up and gives your shoulder and pectoral girdle a pretty good range of motion. And then your latissimus dorsi is another back muscle. It's kind of layered underneath the trapezius at points, but this would be covering the majority of your central back. On the abdominal wall, we have our abs, the rectus abdominis, and then on the sides, we have our obliques, the internal and external portion. So a lot of your muscles are incredibly layered, and these white portions that you see are just tendons kind of connecting them as they overlap. But I am most concerned that you just know that the external obliques are the ones you can see from the outside when we're looking at the side of your body. Your abs, of course, help you bend forward, give you that pulling power to bring your trunk forward, and your obliques help you bend side to side. On the pelvic girdle, we have two butt muscles. The gluteus maximus is the really big one that covers most of the surface of your butt, and then the gluteus medius is more in the hip region. Down the back of the leg, just like you had a bicep in your arm, we haven't covered that yet, you have a bicep in your leg, and it's the large muscle that's on the back of your thigh. Common name for this would be your hamstring. On the front of your leg, you have two big muscles I want you to know. The sartorius twists around the front. It's rather skinny. And the rectus femoris is one of your quadricep muscles, one of your quads. But there's a better view on another slide. Here we go. So, comprehensive anterior view, we have all those face muscles I mentioned. Those are starred muscles you need to know. We had your traps, your abs, your obliques. Here's a better view of that sartorius. It's a very thin ribbon that runs over the front of your thigh. And then the big rectus femoris making up your primary quad muscle. On this slide, a couple new ones we haven't mentioned. Your shin muscle is your tibialis anterior, because it covers your tibia and it's on the front side. And then the bulk of your calf muscle is called your gastrocnemius. On the back side, we see that temporalis again, the occipitalis, the big kite-like trapezius, your shoulder deltoids. On your arms, we have triceps. Did we cover biceps on this side? Oh, it was included in here. So on our arms on the anterior side, we have our biceps, because it's a two-part muscle, biceps brachii. On the back, we have a three-part muscle called our triceps brachii. We had our latissimus dorsi in the back, our external oblique, our two gluteus, the medius and the maximus. Here's that big one. The sartorius, which was crossing around the front, but you can see a little piece of it here on the back. Our biceps femoris on the femur side. Our gastrocnemius, which is a two-part calf muscle. And then, just for fun, your Achilles tendon is known as your calcaneal